All right, y'all. So it's become official news now that several of the Pelicans players are too thrilled with Stan Van Gundy. And let me be the first to admit I was wrong. Take my glasses off so y'all can see me in my eyes. I was wrong. Um, what was I wrong about? I thought Stan would be very good for this team because I felt like he would be a teacher and a mentor to the guys. But apparently, that isn't the case. That's not to say that his personality didn't help some of the players, but I think there's more damage done to the key players than to the ones that I guess matter a little bit less. So that I was wrong on. Having said all of that, look, we don't know who the players are. Okay, I can only speculate that it's at least Brandon Ingram and Lonzo, and I can only speculate that because they were candid about, or in Lonzo's case, he was very trying to protect his words in the exit presser. But I think Brandon Ingram has just never kind of vibed with him because if I remember distinctly at the beginning of the season, he's different. And I think he was more than like he's going to give him a chance. Um, Here's the thing. There's a lot of convoluted bullshit out there right now. I've heard some wacky shit like, oh, Alvin Gentry was told that by the players that he's missed and he's the one that put that information out there. I've heard, takes like, I've heard all kinds of shit. You don't know whether to make heads or tails of this, to be honest. So for me, I'm just gonna keep it simple. I'm not gonna worry about the unknown stuff. I'm only gonna worry about the stuff that we do know. And I'll be honest, I have not read the article. Okay, I'm only gonna talk about basically the situation, not the article itself, or he say, hearsay, all that other stuff. So here's the thing. At the minimum, we know several players were not happy with their role. We don't know who those players are. Um, and if not those players being upset at the roles, I think we could take it a step further and say some players were not happy with other players' roles. I think some people preferred certain guys to have different jobs on the team, and it didn't occur. Having said that, here's the problem. First of all, shout outs to Skip Bayless. Because he predicted this and said this from the get go. Okay? And I know a lot of people don't like Skip Bayless. I personally like Skip Bayless, and there's certain takes where I distinctly listen to him more on than others because he knows shit. And a lot of people don't like him because he'll say certain things and give these takes that people don't like. But when he's right, he's right. And he called the stand thing down the middle from jump. Now, some of the people who were following me also did too. And that's fine. No issue with that. But I want to make sure I shouted out Skip Bayless for this because a lot of people aren't going to give him his credit when he was echoing this way back in the beginning. Here's the thing, right? If you got your players not vibing with the coach, it's going to cause friction in the locker room. So people are going to have to get moved. I remember telling you guys that if Lonzo left, it was going to cause a problem. If Lonzo is one of the players that is not vibing with Stan, and I think that's probably the case, it's likely he's not coming back. And David Griffin is not the type to keep Alonzo Ball. So, if Lonzo ends up leaving the team, it's going to bring the morale of the team down, I think. At least when it comes to a couple of people, mainly Zion and Bi. I think those two in particular are the main two that matter, and that's why their voices probably carry the most weight. If Zoe was ever going to sign back, I'm sorry. If Zoe were ever to sign back, it's going to be because of those two. Meaning, if he was going to take a pay cut to come back, it's going to be because of those two. A coach got fired mid-season because he didn't vibe with the star player. Talking about Atlanta Hawks and Trae Young. And I can't remember the coach's name that got fired, but basically that was the cause. It's like Trae Young was like, you got to get up out of here. And it was just like Trae versus a coach. You got to get rid of the coach. You keep your star player happy. I think we could possibly be headed for a similar thing this offseason if they end up losing Zoe and Zoe has to go to another team. At this point, I always have to ask this question. I don't mind a person being relieved of their job in the NBA as long as it's for righteous reasons. However, what is your replacement? So it's one thing to say we're going to get rid of Stan Van Gundy, but the Pelicans interviewed 9 coaches last offseason, and Stan is the only one that agreed with Point Zion. So you interviewed coaches and they didn't like the idea of Point Zion, and you hired Stan because he agreed with what you wanted to do? Okay. Let's just say you decide to go to round. All right, Stan, you know what? 1 year is enough. We got too much friction. We got to cut you loose. Fine. Now what? Okay. Who's going to replace him? Who's available? That's the next issue. And you got to bring in somebody who your star players are going to like, and they're going to put people in their proper place. I don't get or I don't understand how the Pelicans would go about this. If you went through 9 coaches and only Stan was the one that thought about maybe doing Point Zion and we don't even know how they got to that point, well, what's the chances you're going to get someone else who's going to run a Point Zion? Now, I'll give you this. Point Zion had a track record this season, so you got to see it. It's a sample size. It was largely effective in terms of stats. You're going to want to build around this. David Griffin and them already said, we want to go straight Point Zion all next year. Okay? So whatever coach comes in is going to have to agree with that. But let's just say those same percentages come out to be about what that is. And what I mean is you go through 9 coaches and one maybe would like it. What is that, like maybe 18%-ish? Let's just assume that's the case. You're going to have to go through a bunch of coaches to try to find the right fit for these guys. And if you're only looking to find guys who's going to go Point Zion, I think you're missing the point of firing Stan. The point of firing Stan is not just to appease the players, but you have to change the system and everything and the ideology, and it has to work for your star players. Zion, I don't think mind playing Point Zion because he gets to have the ball in his hands. He gets to make decisions, right? Fine. So whatever coach would have to be okay with that because Zion's going to want the ball. He's going to want to playmate. Lonzo, he's not even technically on the team because he's an RFA. And as an RFA, he has the possibility to go somewhere else. And so if he leaves, that leaves less of an opportunity or need for a coach to have an actual point guard, and you can go Point Zion still. But that's if this is during the off season. If this happens during the regular season, like a mid-season firing, who are you going to promote up the bench? Because Stan brought in all of Stan's guys. You can't just fire Stan. You got to fire the whole bench, with the exception of Teaspoon, Vincent, and some of the other guys who were there from the last regime. Because Stan wants to work with his people, the people he trusts, the people he knows. And granted, like I told you guys, Stan didn't really get gifted a roster, a good one, but a roster that works for what he wants to do. Okay? There's no debating that. So it's not really fair to him either. But you fired Alvin Gentry, who technically wasn't gifted a roster for what he wants to do. It was close, but still not quite there. So, it's kind of like, well, what's the point of firing Gentry if you're going to get Stan and only have to fire Stan and have to go get someone else to do the same thing that Stan did because you didn't like what Gentry was doing because you wanted someone who was going to agree with what you wanted. You see, this is a whole conglomerate of fuckery. I don't see how this doesn't have long-term implications. Is there a way you could dance this around? Okay, sure. Could the players sit there and have a sit down with Stan and they work this out? Absolutely. Do beefs happen in locker rooms? Absolutely. But not to this scale, which leads me to the next thing. So I had a conversation with, and I hope I don't fuck his name up, David Grubb. I think of the Bird Rights is the name of the publication. It wasn't really, and let me clarify, this wasn't like me and him was having a sit-down conversation or exchanging messages in DM or something like that. It was on a post. And me and him were going back and forth about this. And basically, I told him, first of all, if you see this, DG, I appreciate you even taking the time to communicate with me on public, forum like that on Twitter. Because I understand as a writer and stuff, you got other things you probably doing, radio and all that other shit. So I appreciate you talking to me even for a couple minutes, going back and forth in discourse. But he basically saying it's really not that serious. It's not as many people as people think it is. And quite frankly, these kind of disagreements happen all the time. What I'm saying, or what I'm more alluding to, is there could be little rifts and beefs in locker rooms that happen over a course of a year, but you don't really see a bunch all the time, the top guys not liking the head coach. And it's being publicly put out like this. Because this started because of an interview given for a podcast for the Sacramento Kings in which they mentioned that, low key, the Pelicans of players don't like, Stan. It's just being kept peacefully and quiet. Well, that was put out last week. Today, it's all over the place. You can't run from it. And it's possible, and I have not got on a jump to see if it was, or ESPN or the jump and see if they've been talking about it this evening. But likely that's going to be a talking point tomorrow for a lot of places. But to me and DG's exchange, he's more of the line that this is nothing. Me, I'm like, bruh, first of all, if it's one player and they're not a main player, then it don't matter. But if it's the main player, that's a problem. But if it's more than one of the main players, that's really a problem. And if it's more than just two of the main players, you got a serious fucking issue. Now, me and him never came to an agreement on that, and that's fine. It's all love and whatnot to him. But at the end of the day, I'm just saying, you could talk about culture, you could talk about all this shit, good human beings, but if people's personalities don't mix, they don't fucking mix. And you got to clean that up. So that means either the players got to go or the coach got to go. If one of those players is Brandon Ingram, you're going to have to trade him. Wait a minute. I've been telling people they're going to need to trade Brandon Ingram for a while anyway. And he got that trade kicker. Just saying. Now, I'm not saying they're going to trade Brandon Ingram. But If he's one of the players, that's likely the way to go. But there's Lonzo Ball too. And it could be more players. It could be less. I'm assuming it's those two because of the presser and how they've carried themselves all season and just other little things. I think it's those two. It's possible it could be more. It's possible I could be wrong. I doubt it. Yes, insert Charles Barkley gift. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. But the point is, this is serious. And I don't want people to get on here talking about this ain't that serious. If it wasn't serious, we wouldn't have heard about it on any level. Okay? Like the saying goes, where there's smoke, there's fire. Why would there be smoke if there's not fire? Just saying. So, this is going to be something to keep our eyes on. Um, this has the ability to spill over into next season if this is not handled properly or righteously. If they don't appease BI, if it's BI, or Zion, because it could be Zion too, we don't know. But if they don't appease both of those guys, and let's say Lonzo is not on the team, and the team starts off next season like 3-7, this is going to be an issue. It is going to trickle down and it is going to build up because now you got to start looking at the entire front office and the coach. Because at this point you're underachieving. It's not just a one off. You're underachieving freaking regularly. This is a pattern. And then you might have to look at your star players too. Can our two star players play alongside of each other? Again, that's why BI has that trade kicker too. And they've already established that Zion is the guy. If so, and Zion was who they drafted. So guess what? If they have to get rid of somebody, they're not getting rid of the guy they drafted, who's an all star and who's talented. They're gonna get rid of the guy they traded, who they really didn't have the emotional investment into until he earned it. And a lot of teams could take a Brandon Ingram or would like a Brandon Ingram, and it's potentially he could go off to another team and start putting up 28, 7, and 6, and you're sitting there like, damn, where was this in New Orleans? So keep your eyes peeled on this situation. Matter of fact, as soon as I in this video, I'm gonna start reading and doing some research and getting some digging and going on and see what I can find out. But like I said, there's a lot of bullshit online right now, so it's gonna take some sifting. Maybe I can find something, snoop through something, but we'll see. But that's all I got. Y'all have a good one. Peace.